This podcast is sponsored by Ramp. Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp for free. Just go to ramp.com/easy. Ramp.com/easy. RAMP.com/easy.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members of FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
As we have an impending snowstorm coming, we want to remember one that's infamous, and we brought in somebody very special to do it.
It's the Morning Mayor, Dave Eddy, WPCK.
Oh, my gosh.
How's that for an intro?
That's terrific. Where did you dig that up?
It was buried very deep somewhere.
Very, very deep, yeah.
It was on a old record, and I had to find a record player.
And then we wired up a projector, and then we had somebody act out the sound for us so we can interpret it back into an audio file.
We actually hired a bunch of singers and musicians.
All for me?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Listen, it's awfully good to be in studio with you guys.
It is wonderful to have you.
Well, I've been listening to you. You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work.
That means a lot to us coming from you. Of course, Dave Eddy hosted the morning show. This show, do you want to talk about how long it was?
I don't remember.
Over 48
years.
48
years at BCK, and about 47 of that was the morning show.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
That is amazing.
47 years doing the morning show here.
I remember my first time working here in 2002. I did a couple of overnight shifts, and once in a while I had to fill in during the week, and I actually got some of your prep work for you and Bill.
I remember. Yeah.
And I had to make sure I left it in the right spot. And that's when everything was on paper, stacks of paper.
We still have stacks of paper laying around here.
Not like that, though.
What'd you do with the teletype machines? They're not here anymore. What's a teletype machine?
That is a good question. What is a teletype machine?
I know Tom McHale's typewriter was here, and I think that's been moved to a safe place.
It is.
I'm sure of that. The old green,
yes.
What was it, Royal, was it, or an Underwood? I don't recall what it was.
I can't remember what brand it was. It might have been Underwood.
You know, another thing that was gifted to Lacey and I was the barometer.
Oh, yeah.
Which it was very important back then to check that every 6 hours and write it down on the weather almanac sheet.
Yep.
And but Tim, I don't know whose decision it was, but
it was mine.
Your decision, so you got it.
They asked me what I wanted, and I'm like, I want the barometer.
It's hanging up in our apartment on the wall, and it even still has a note that somebody typed up probably 30 years ago that says,
conversion.
Here's how you're supposed to do this and everything.
Yeah.
It means a lot that we were able to
I'm very familiar with that. So if you ever want to get rid of that, you know where it can go.
Right to
me.
you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'll keep that in mind.
Around.
Yeah, absolutely. If I ever get rid of that I'll give you a call first.
Thanks, Lacey.
So a few days ago, Lacey and I were on Facebook, and we saw something that you had posted related to the infamous Michigan blizzard of 78.
78, yep. January, February. You know that's 44 years ago or something? So, the memory isn't what it used to be. So,
is it fonder? Do you look back at that journey into work that morning as a fond experience now?
Oh my gosh! Yes, I guess you could say that. At that time, I said in the memory again, I said I lived at Wall Lake, but I was living at that time at Long Lake Cloverdale.
Okay,
which made it another 5 miles more.
Oh wow!
So it made it about 30-mile trip into town.
Wow!
And I had my oldest son living with me at that time. The two of us in this little summer cottage, and it was in the middle of the winter. Mm-hmm. And besides that, I had to go outdoors and into the shower every morning. So,
oh my goodness!
Yeah. Had a roof over it, but I mean, it was still outdoors.
Yeah, that's got to be cold.
So they got you
That'll
started.
wake you up. Yeah.
But we knew that you had nothing as complicated as nowadays. That we knew a storm was coming.
But the forecasts weren't quite the way they can anticipate things.
They weren't. But, so we knew that we were going to get some snow, all right. But
not that much.
So Don was then going to Delton Kellogg schools. And I said, Don, by looking at things, it looks like you might not have school tomorrow. So when I got up at whatever, I always got up at 3:52 every morning, but probably a little earlier that morning.
Yeah.
And I said, we have got to see if we can get into town. Because I had this Jeep pickup truck, used pickup truck that I had picked up. Mm-hmm. And I never thought we'd make it.
Oh.
I mean, a couple of times we had to stop at the top of the hill, and say, Don, I don't think we're going to get through that drift down there. And so he'd walk out a little bit, and he said, I don't think so either, but let's try it. So we did. Somehow we got here.
Instead of hold my beer, hold my coffee. Watch this.
It was way too early for a beer, for sure.
Well, so the Battle Creek Enquirer did an article after this, and you had several articles that was part of your Facebook post.
Right.
You guys kind of teamed up, the WBCK and the Enquirer, a little bit to communicate some of the things.
And, there was a rivalry between, they didn't like us and we didn't like them, so to speak. But Dan Martin, who, by the way, is still around, he lives in Naples, Florida these days, and we've been meaning to get together for quite some time. But Dan cooperated with us. He was the publisher, editor of the Battle Creek Enquirer at that time. And we got together, and they would get reports. Their ability to get reports and things were much more sophisticated than ours. And so he would call in all these reports and things. And, of course, there were no computers.
Yeah.
No computers. All by hand,
No text messages, no voicemails.
And we had just a skeleton staff around here, with the snow. And
that's
everything.
nothing new.
No. By the way, I am so elated to see you guys standing up and working.
Really?
I always did.
I prefer it. I feel like it makes the morning move a little faster.
Well,
I feel loose.
Yeah. And you sit on a stool or something, and that's no good. And I did that at first. You'd sit in an office chair when I first started. I got some pictures here. There's one right there. Hold it up to the mic.
We'll try to get some of these posted again later today or something like that.
Okay,
and we'll be putting together an article about this discussion. I like to stand most of the time. Sometimes I mix it up a little if my back's a little sore or something like that. But and what's nice is our new studios will have the same option of being able to stand. It'll be elevated.
Good. So. That's good. Yeah, it keeps you on your toes.
It does.
Literally, I guess.
You feel more awake, and with it, keeps you awake in the morning.
Yeah.
So during that blizzard in '78, what was one of the most spectacular, and I'm sure there were many, reports that came in during that time?
Well, my gosh, where do you start? And again, this is 44 years ago or something. But we also go back to the '67 snowstorm,
right?
And I lived within 2 blocks of this place then, and we saw that one coming. If I can relate back to '67 for just a second, lived on Pawnee Street over here, which is just a couple of blocks away. And Tom McHale stayed all night at our house that night because it was getting bad.
It might as well be close.
Yeah. And Tom and I in the morning came over here. He was the news director then. And maybe Jim Cleaver was still, Jim Cleaver was involved too, but Tom stayed the night with me. And as I recall, when he stayed that night, there was a disaster on one of the pads down in Florida. When the 3 astronauts died on a fiery... That was during that period of time. I think it was that night, I believe.
Gosh, yeah.
But we walked over here through the snow on that 67 one. But getting back to the 78, so many things you don't think about. People would die, as a natural course of things.
Yeah.
And how do you get the bodies?
Right.
And the funeral homes had to divert to the sheriff's department, other trucks, city trucks and things to get the bodies into the funeral home.
That's not something you would think about.
You wouldn't think about that at all. And funerals probably had to be delayed, a couple of weeks or longer. Who knows?
Yeah, it took a while to get things cleaned up. But and food. People needed food. And there were a few snowmobiles around. There weren't a lot of snowmobiles at that time. Mm-hmm. But my little Jeep pickup truck was really busy picking up people, and after we get off the air and go pick up somebody that needed this and that and the other thing. But
Wow.
It was a mess.
So not only were you hosting and keeping people informed, you went out and did a delivery service of sorts.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You were the original Uber.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
We're talking with the morning mayor, Dave Eddy, right here on WBCK. Some of his memories of the blizzard of 78 and the blizzard of 67. He was here for both of those major Michigan winter weather events. Probably the biggest one. I don't think we've had anything quite like it since then.
I think we had 20. I read in the newspaper article 23 and a half inches of snow, and there was 7 inches of snow prior to that on the ground.
Wow.
I mean, drifts. People were going up on their roof, and they could jump off of into the snowbank, and it's really was something else.
Well, and a lot of the colleges and universities were closed, which is very rare.
Everything was closed.
Everything, I bet, yeah.
I think one of the closest things we've had since then is something we talked about a little bit earlier this morning. It wasn't a blizzard, but that deep freeze about 3 years ago.
Oh, the polar vortex?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Schools?
I think I was in Florida for that one.
Oh, lucky you.
The newsroom inside here at WBCK got down to 46 degrees because the heat couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
I can believe that.
I bet it was nice and toasty warm in Florida, though.
It was. Actually, it did dip, as it's doing presently.
Yeah.
They're having some pretty cold weather in Florida.
Yeah,
but and it was colder down there.
The morning mayor, Dave Eddy, is joining us this morning. We're talking about memories of the blizzard of 78, the blizzard in 67, and hopefully get some advice about how we should make our way in the coming days.
I think you just bring your sleeping bag right in here.
Yeah.
When you got something. What are you doing tonight? Are you staying right here tonight?
No, not tonight.
No,
I think we'll be okay tonight. It's tomorrow that we're actually the evening.
The ride home.
Yeah, the ride home is going to be rough. And then Thursday morning.
We are going to bring a couple of things with us in case maybe we need to get a hotel closer to the studios
That'd be a good
for
idea.
Thursday morning.
And bring some food with you.
Well,
some snack stuff.
I actually keep a stash of
we
snacks
do
here.
anyway.
So we didn't do that back in those days. And boy, we didn't have anything to eat or anything.
We couldn't get a pizza delivered, probably.
No, Beats, did they invent it? I guess it was still around. Yeah. One thing that I have a fleece at home. A thing to put over your body when it's cold. And everything. Well, it was given to me by Dennis Hodges.
No,
Dennis, you remember that name?
I remember him.
Right, Brandon. So Dennis Hodges was the meteorologist, and he presented this to me when I retired, this fleece. And it says 1 February 98 through January 8th of 2008, 14 years, 11 months, 18 days of absolute grief. Always your friend, Dennis Hodges.
Oh, gosh. With friends like that, who needs enemies?
he was a happy guy, yeah.
So, and then I think in 78, we may have had a meteorologist on staff, and it might have been the fellow from Wheeling, Illinois. I had it right on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of his name now. But we had a couple of meteorologists, and Dennis stuck around after I retired for a while.
I remember Dennis doing our weather reports when I was first here. I'm not sure when he was done, but sometime late 2000s, something like that.
He was so stiff when he first started, But boy, did I loosen him up, I'll tell you. He just became a real part of the morning show.
He was on the ball, too. I mean, if we
he
had
was.
any severe weather coming through, he would call up and say, hey, I've got a report for you. Can you record it in and get it on the air? And he was,
Joel Bonin was the other.
Okay.
I mean, that goes back a long way. And Joel may have been part of the staff back in 78. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But that was, and you had teletype machines all over the place, tapping away on every hour, just constantly.
Those ambient noises probably back in the day that all we hear now is these quiet keyboards, but hearing the typewriters, hearing the wire
clatter,
going off.
clatter, it was something else.
People moving carts and records and all that kind of stuff. I always, Lacey
records,
and I...
what are those?
I sometimes feel like Lacey and I were born 25 to 30 years too late because I think we would have enjoyed being in that environment, although stressed out probably too.
Well, you'd have been stressed out, but you would have enjoyed it. I mean, radio, I don't know whether it's fun anymore, but
it's still fun.
It was very stressful.
Yeah.
We had a lot of things to do when I first got into it. All we had were the reel-to-reel tapes. And, you'd have to cue those things up while the record was playing, the old 45s or 33s. We used to play records here,
Yeah. Now we just look at the computer and say,
Right.
does the list of things look
Yeah.
right? Okay, here we go.
But it has changed. It has changed.
Oh, yeah, and it continues to. I mean, social media and the web, such a big part of what we do, not just for receiving information, but putting information out there, too. And in some ways, it's a great thing. In other ways, it's not.
Well, I'm glad that you have tasted a part of that, what radio used to be anyway.
Yeah.
And you bring that to your show.
Oh, thank you.
And I hope you keep that up because it's kind of a lost art.
Well, Lacey and I certainly have some fun things planned. We definitely want to stay in the spirit of WBCK with our experiences with this radio station over the years. And, of course, working with people like you and a lot of the other names that you've mentioned. We feel like great days are ahead for the station, and we will certainly do our best to
I'm sure you
respect it and have fun.
So I do want to ask you real quick, going back to the 78 Blizzard, was there a point where you thought maybe it isn't worth trying to get in?
Yes. just about probably maybe 2 miles after we got on the road that morning.
Yeah.
I had Long Lake Cloverdale, it's kind of down in a little valley, and I had to go up this long hill. And thank God I had this four-wheel drive Jeep. We got up that hill, got up on Kingsbury Road, I think it is, and then Pfeiffer Road. Mm-hmm. But we hit Pfeiffer Road, and there was a drift ahead of us that I didn't think we were going to make it.
Yeah.
I was just about to throw in the towel. But Don said, I think we might. That Don, my son, oldest son, said, I think we might be able to. So I said, okay, get in, because he had gone to check it out. And I just floored that thing, and away we went down into the valley, and up the hill, and we were on our way.
Well, it's like one thing, you may have said this, or other people in the industry, we don't get snow days.
No.
You have to you have to get there somehow.
Yeah, there's a pandemic going on. If there's any major emergency going on, there's no day off for that for us, as you know.
Same for you, yeah.
We had to take everything down. It was all done by telephone, of course.
Yeah.
And we had a little code word that we'd give the schools in advance.
Right.
And they would have to give us that code word, or we
announce
wouldn't put it on.
Yeah, to announce their
Of course,
clothes.
we had all these kids that would disguise their voice, Oh, this is Superintendent so-and-so, and we will not have school today. What's the code word? Boom. Hung up.
Yeah, now they just send them, the school sends it through an official email. I mean, we do get some calls occasionally.
Yes.
Usually it's the organizations or a church maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's different. And now we can put them all on the website instead of having to read them for 15 minutes.
Yeah, and that used to, my voice was just shot at the end of the shift, I'll tell you.
That's hardly time to talk about anything else at that point.
On this one article, this was an ad, actually, that appeared in the Battle Creek Shopper News in March of 78. And it's a little tribute to the station, and it shows my pickup truck and myself and Dan Martin. Kim Kersonis was on the air at that time. He also played the organ at the Old Spa Steakhouse.
Oh, wow.
Some of you remember that. And, of course, my son, Chuck Wiseman, and he shows him sleeping on the table downstairs here.
Oh, wow.
What would now be, conference room, I guess, or something or other. There used to be a record library when they had records, too. And Tom McHale. Gene Cahill was the general manager, and he finally got in here somehow or other. And Nat Sibbald was the general manager, owner of the place at that time. Levita Kaufman at that time was on staff. Waldo Lennick was the sales guy.
Wow.
And Dennis Spalsbury was also a member of the staff, and he's pictured on here. So I'm glad I saved that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get some pictures of the stuff and hopefully be able to share it with everybody else a little bit later on today.
Good
That's,
deal.
again, one of the pluses of us being able to put out content on the website is being able to share some snapshots into the radio station's history. And, of course, WBCK is such a rich history in Battle Creek, and thanks in a big part for your efforts here, Dave.
Yeah, the BCK went on the air in 1948, and I came here in 1960.
So you were about 2 years old then, right?
Oh, Lacey, I love you.
Unbelievable. Well, we are so glad you took the time to join us, and I hope you know that invitation is always open if you want to come back and just have some fun for any reason at all.
I just told Lacey a moment ago that I really miss this. I really do miss it. Well, I don't miss getting up at 3:52 in the morning, but I do miss the associations and being on the air and letting people know what's going on. And you've got that spark too. Both of you've got that spark.
That's so kind of you to say. And well, if you're itching to come back, you can come back and join us anytime.
Well, I might be knocking at your door one of these days.
Sounds good to me. 95.3 WBCK. Thank you to the morning mayor, Dave Eddy, for joining us this morning.
Want to save on your home's energy costs? Find a home with natural gas for warmer heat and seemingly endless hot water. With natural gas, you'll save hundreds in energy costs. Be sure to visit Sea Island Preserve, a Pulte Homes community, or ask your builder or realtor for natural gas in your next home. Dominion Energy, serving natural gas to Sea Island Preserve by Pulte Homes.